gasket set. In this case, Victor Rhines, a multi-layered metal head gasket. The instructions for their head bolts and tightening sequence. Just checking if this is possible to get on incorrectly. Pretty much wouldn't be. Has to go that way by the looks of it. Some things to check, things like oil galleries. Just have a good check to make sure all the holes line up and everything's as you would expect it to be. So something doesn't seem right around that stud there. Seems to be tightening up a little bit. So I'm gonna take another quick look at that. I've been quite amazed when you actually look at the cylinders, you can still see the cross hatching in these. And this is an engine that's done 150,000 Ks. Apparently they're laser etched in some way. It's obviously very effective. And yeah, I'm super impressed to see absolutely no lip at all. And of course, very nice cross hatching in there as well. So that's looking really good. Okay, one final check of everything. Okay, we are good. This is right up out of the way. Okay. Cheers. That's the sound we want. Cool. If you can just hold that down. Yeah, just push down on that. I'll go get bolt temporarily. These are our new Victor Rhines head bolts. Our ribe. Oh, and it fits. Nice. Yay. That's what you want. Alright, you can let go of that now, because that will be fine. Finally got parts to put this EOS back together. So today we changing out the old balance shaft chain, putting a new one on. Of course, new timing chain, tensioners and tensioner. Putting the camshafts back in and closing it all up, getting this thing running. Let's get stuck in. So obviously got the head in, I've put the injectors in. I have done a little video on how to put new seals on the injectors and also how to clean those injectors. So we'll put a link in the description for those. Other than that, I've put the dump pipe back onto the turbo. I've plumbed up the coolant lines and the oil drain as well. I've put the brace on the top, on the bottom of the turbo, and I've put the heat shield back on this stainless heat shield that protects the oxygen sensor cabling, and I've put the heat shield back on. So the two bolts, there's one about here, there's one about here, and in this case they were triple squares, and then there's one a bit lower about here, which is just a hex 6 that needs to be done as well. So what I'm up to now is I've just been cleaning these guides up. Don't worry too much about these, they only go in one way. So you can see there, that's dropped in nicely. If you try and put it in the other way, it just doesn't go in all the way. So they only go in one way, all nice and clean and ready to go in. So I'll be focusing now on putting the inlet manifold back on. When I pulled this off, I tried to pull the injectors out with the manifold. Obviously now I'm doing it the opposite way, so the injectors are already in the head, and I'm going to try and mate the manifold onto that. That part is not so hard because these slip on easily and it's easy to guide those on. What is difficult though is trying to get the electrical connectors on. So what I prefer to do now is actually take this loom off, a couple of little plastic clips, squeeze and pull, squeeze and pull. We pop this one off. We can actually go ahead and put that wiring loom down onto the injectors, clip all of the injectors in, and then put the manifold on, and then it's quite easy just to clip that harness back onto the injector rail. So we can go ahead and pop this harness in. Now we can put the new gasket onto the manifold and drop that in place. So as this manifold's going on, I'm just being careful of the connector. So this connector is a bit tricky to get on later. So pop that on as you're sliding it down. It does clear the housing there, so that's fine. And now what we're just going to do is make sure that we get our looms in position. So you can see down there, I've got that. So snapped in. Next one along. Get that in as well, and then these two down the end here. So this just slides up on that stainless steel tube, so I'll just clip that up. And there's another one a little bit further to the left, that one's already up. So now we're good to push that manifold in all the way. All of the front part is all reassembled. The turbocharger is all on, the coolant, oil lines, drain lines, all of that is done at the back. So now it will be putting the camshafts back in and doing the timing chains. So I labeled all of the inlet and exhaust tappets and lifters. So I'll now just give them a nice clean up before we drop them back into the cylinder head, and after we've done that we'll be ready to put the camshafts on. Of course we're going to put some assembly lube on those. Okay, so we've just gone through, as you saw, very carefully evened out this, and now I've gone down and torqued these to 8 Newton meters and then a 90-degree turn. I use the method of just putting a line with a Sharpie on top of each bolt and then rotating them 90 degrees. I really like that method. You can't lose where you're up to as well, so you do everything, make sure you haven't missed anything. So that actually works really well. I'm happy with that process.